Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Well, we're going to talk about pet loss today, and the fact that pet loss, someone once said to me that pets leave a paw print on your heart, and I think that's really true. Heidi, I don't know if I told you about my first story about pets. That was the first loss in my life. I had a dog. When I was 8, my aunt gave me a thoroughbred dog, and it got hit by a car, and I remember that as being absolutely horrendous and the first loss in my life. So, and you know what a pet person I am. So yeah. It's cool to have Adam Goldman on, who is also a pet person. Welcome, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Great to have you on. Well, we're going to be talking a little bit about pet loss. Adam is in Colombia. Were you born in Israel, Adam?
I was born in Israel. My parents immigrated from Argentina many years ago. Yeah.
Oh, to Argentina. Okay. And so we're going to be talking about pet loss and the pains that cause. And you said you lost a pet early in life too, right, Adam?
Yeah, when I was born, we already had Buki in our family. It was this big, half dog, half fox from Egypt. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was a very strange, rare dog. When I was 17, we buried him illegally, so keep it between us, in a forest in Jerusalem.
Ah, I love that. The burials are important. We'll talk about that because when my dog died, we started a little pet cemetery behind my house. And it got to be kind of interesting because people in the neighborhood bought pets. And before we knew it, we had a lot of pets.
Well, when working on grief, I identified 8 common pains that many people who go through grief share. And many times we do the mistake that we think it's only us. Like it's only me who have a foggy brain, or it's only me that has this pain. And for many people, it's very comforting to know that's not true. And actually these pains are very common, they're very normal, and there's nothing wrong with you or your emotions. So it's foggy grief brain, like lack of concentration, the sense that the routine is broken, since pets are very integral part of our lives. We have very loved ones who tell us kind things, like it's not like you lost a family member or it's just a pet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say goodbye, which is a common misconception I'll touch on. The troublesome ending, the future plans that won't happen with or regarding the pet. Emptiness and loss of good feelings and presence, and a dark, uncompelling future. Boy,
I know what the foggy brain is. I remember having the foggy brain after my dog died. Felt sad all the time.
Yeah, it's you feel sad, and many times things that seem very trivial, as just wake up in the morning, your morning routine, getting the kids ready to school, drive around the block, going to the grocery store. Since a lot of our mental capacity is kind of hung up on the grief and the pain, there is not a lot of open CPU, open brain power to do just normal things. And many times people kind of feel that they're on the verge of a breakdown. Like, what's wrong with me? I can't even find my keys, or I can't even have homework with my kids, help them with their homework. So that is very common. The first step to do, which many people find very helpful, is we have this big box of loss. And if you don't kind of map it and organize it, it's very easy to go from different aspects of the loss and kind of be stuck in a loop. So the first thing to do, which is kind of what we're doing now, is map out different aspects of the grief and write down everything that comes to mind under each category. Now, we don't need to do it right.
One thing that we found out from people that we've had on the show is how helpful writing is to people who've had a loss. So that's a great point, isn't it, Heidi?
Absolutely. It's important to write things down. And also, once you do them, if you cross them off, it makes you feel better. Because you feel like, okay, I've accomplished something and I've done something with my day.
Yep. Yeah. Also, our mind can be very treacherous. So this is a way to kind of have everything on paper. And after you do this for an hour or two, you get to a point where you look at the paper and you go, I think I'm done. I mean, it still hurts, but I have it all visually. Like, here is everything. It really helps. Routine is broken. When I had my dog, little Wookie, he was literally with me since the moment I woke up. So when my parents came to wake me up as a kid, he would show up. And when I would have breakfast, he would be there, and I would go to school. I would come back, he was there. He was always there. We have this feeling of that the routine is broken since we have all these references to things we used to do with our dog or our cat or our pet.
Mm-hmm. And they're always there with you and always happy to see you.
Yeah, the thing to do here is we're going to touch on this lately afterwards. It's to code the pet in your mind in a presence-filled way.
I hate it when people say that. Whoa.
Yeah. This is one of
the worst.
Yeah, this is one of the worst ones. We have loved ones that many times have very good intentions, but not so good delivery or good packaging or good execution. And it's mostly hurtful from loved ones, from friends, for family, and they usually mean well. They want to support us, but they just really don't know how. So out of their frustrations and their limitations, we hear things like this.
You know, I think part of it is the fact that they don't really, oftentimes they don't have a relationship with your animal. Whereas if it's a child or something like that, you know, a family member, they might have a personal relationship with them. But dogs are pretty much one-to-one, or, you know, a family or people living with them. The neighbors may be a pain in the neck for the neighbors because they bark. So they don't have that kind of attachment to them.
Yeah, that very much could be, because most people will not have a relationship with your pet.
Mm-hmm. But that's a nice thing about pets. They're really loyal to the few people that they're very, very close to. And I think that's one thing that makes them so lovable. We had somebody email us in and said that she lost her father, and then a couple of years later, she lost her pet. And she was surprised at how strongly she felt about losing the pet, because her dad didn't live by her and her pet was with her every day. And somebody else emailed in and said, yeah, pets are like children that never grow up. And I never thought of that.
That's good. Pets always love you.
That's
They're
right.
always there for you. They never talk back.
So what do you do about this? There is a process I call the repackaging process. And
I like that, repackaging process. Okay.
Yes, and the idea is that and again, the video, of course, will expand on that, but the idea is that you go through, if let's say it's your brother who tells you it's not like you lost a family member. So you think, what's his positive intent by telling me this? And then you reimagine him or her saying the same thing, but with a better packaging. So the same core message, but without the tone and with a better packaging. So we deliver the same positive intent, but without the hurtful part. You run it through your mind, like as clearly as you can, visualize hearing his voice, okay, watching his lips, his facial expression, kind of like if this would be an upgraded version of my brother, if this would be 20% more compassion brother, how would he deliver me the same message? Mm-hmm. And you run it in your mind. Even though we know it's not true, it doesn't really matter, because for the brain, whatever we run, for the brain is reality. That's why if we put a lemon in our mouth, or if we think about putting a lemon in our mouth, we'll salivate either way.
You know, I think that right now we're very much in the United States involved in grief and loss of telling your story over and over and over and over. And in some ways that does package it, because they found that your story changes if you keep telling it. So I think you could probably imagine it more positively too. That might work out. Good idea. So thinking about when somebody says, well, you didn't lose a family member, you just lost a pet, you think about it. What would you think that they would say? What would you say in your mind?
Well, I would go, I actually was lucky enough to never hear that. But usually after I work with clients, they go that the brother or the family member or the friend, they want to say like that it's either not so bad, or life goes on, or you will find new love in other places, or you still have your family with you.
Or
So
you can get another dog.
Or you can get another dog.
Right. So you would rather think of them saying, rather than you can get another dog, you would see them saying, I'm sorry you lost your dog, period. It could be as simple as that, right?
It could be as simple as that. And the way I work, I try to work in a very clean way to respect the other person. So I give the guidelines, but the actual wording would come from the client. So the person who lost the dog, he knows his brother more than I do. So he knows
what he might say.
What his brother will say in a compassion version. When we buried our dog, when we buried Buki, it was a very surreal scene because we had to do it very late at night because it's kind of illegal where we buried him. So imagine raining like 1 a.m. at night, thunders, and 4 guys with hoods shoveling in the ground and throwing a corpse.
What I like about this picture is here's a family saying goodbye to the dog. I mean, that's an important thing to say goodbye, right?
Yes, in a way, of course you say goodbye to the physical presence because the dog will no longer be with you. However, I find that most people who talk about a loss and are no longer hurt, they also lose a lot of internal resources. And what I mean by that is they will say things like, if you will ask them about their loss, they will say, yeah, it's okay, or I don't think about it as much anymore. So they're not so much in pain, which is a good thing, but they don't have access to all the good feelings and all the good and the fond memories and whatever they learned from their dog that were lost. So the way I think about it, and a good friend of mine, Steve Andreas, he likes to say that it's not about saying goodbye, it's about saying hello again. Mm-hmm. So you kind of embrace to your heart all the good memories and all the fun memories. And even many therapists give advice like you should get over it, or like leave it behind or move on. I do not find it to be helpful because it's an immense resource that you can get over it, but you can also code it in your brain in a way that's presence-filled.
Mm-hmm. You know, you just made a really good point. If you don't say goodbye, you can't say hello to those wonderful memories that you had of a dog and or a cat, or, you know, I know one of my grandsons has a snake, you know, even a goldfish. I mean, there are these living things that if you get another one, you can't say, oh, this cat reminds me of, you know, the other cat we had, or, you know, you can't bring those loving feelings to the next animal if you don't, you know, say goodbye to the one.
I like that, Mom. I've got to say something. You said something about a fish. This is crazy, I know, but my husband got super attached to his fish in law school. And Adam, his fish would sit there and watch him study for 3 years. And we lived in New Orleans. And at the end of the 3 years, my husband was really concerned because the fish would follow him in the tank. And he goes, what's going to happen to this fish? I have to move to New York City. What's going to happen? The fish died right on the day he graduated from law school. The fish was found somehow. I don't know what happened, but I never thought you would get attached to a fish, okay? And I saw my husband get attached to a fish. But you're right, but you're bringing up really good points, and I think people they minimize pet loss.
Yeah, absolutely. And all kinds, as I said, a pet snake, anything living thing. We had a lot of gerbils when you were growing up, didn't we, Heidi?
Yes, tons of them. We get really sad when they died as kids.
Resignation, getting over it, shrugging the shoulders. The reunion process, again, this is covered in the video, but the basic idea is that you think of a loss that you had in the past, but it's a resourceful loss. For example, it could be a childhood friend, which you no longer have access to. But if you think of this friend, you kind of light up, like you're very grateful to have known him or her and everything they taught you and all your fun experiences. So this is the key. This is the way your mind encodes a loss, which is resourceful. This process is usually people break down in tears once in the moment where they code the recent loss as a resourceful loss. they really feel like they're saying hello again. And yeah, that's a very beautiful moment. I can never get tired of seeing that.
You know, I'm thinking of the journaling we talked about before. You could do the reunion process in journal. What are the things I remember? This is a reunion with my pet or whatever. Be interesting to go through your different pets for pet lovers that you've had and put down their names and talk about the reunion, the things that you remember about them.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Definitely. For some people, the mere fact of someone pointing out good memories can be a complete therapeutic session, in on itself. Just thinking of good memories and kind of cycling them in your mind or writing them down. Troublesome endings. So our brain has a tendency to sequence time in a way, and every person sequences time in a different way. But almost all humans will bring, in some form or another, will put more emphasis on what happened last. Or if you had a 20 years relationship, you think of the last few months.
You know, I was just thinking of how they died too. My dog was hit by a car, and you know, I heard the brakes and the yell and you know, the animal noise, and I went out to pick it up, and you know, I still remember that because that's coded, you know, with that adrenaline really coats the brain. You know,
Yes.
if I want to go back, I'd choose not to go back and think about it. But if I did, you know, you can really recreate the whole picture. Your mind recreates that picture. So,
Yes.
yeah, troublesome endings. What do you do about those?
And let me just add that sometimes, even if you're not there, you reconstruct it. Like if you got the news over the phone or somebody told you about it, usually people reconstruct it in their mind very vividly.
Yeah, in fact, it's probably sometimes even worse.
Yeah, because then it's your own, like you know it's not real and it's in your mind, and this is another like pain point. I'm kind of doing it to myself. I wasn't even there. And it could be an accident. It could be just watching them when you're putting them to sleep. It could be deteriorating health if the dog is sick or progressively deteriorating. And the thing we do is a process I call the peaceful ending. It trains the amygdala, which is usually intense emotions are recorded in the amygdala. So it trains.
The amygdala is in the center of the brain, a little gland.
Yeah, right? And it when it fires up, it kind of shuts down the prefrontal cortex. So when the classic example is someone who is scared of cockroaches, and when a cockroach walks by, like, immediately they freak out, and you cannot access them, you cannot talk to them, and they can be extremely brilliant and very bright people. It does not matter. So what we do in this process is we take the entire ending, which is not what we valued. So it could be the accident, or if it's the last year in the hospital or what have you. And we code it in a way which is very dissociated. So we can still register the information. We're not hiding anything or running away from anything. But you code this information as something as very dry, like more of the facts. Like, yes, this what happened, and the car hit him there, and it was sunny afternoon, but without engaging the amygdala, so you could actually think and you can register this information without so much of the trauma. So the way to do it, this process takes around 40, 50 minutes. And the way to think about it is, if I would put you in the cinema with a really big screen, and let's say it will be a horror movie, and I will show you what the victim shows. Like, let's say he's running from the monster. So you will be in first person as you're the one running from the monster, or as you're the one having the accident, or what have you, with really big speakers. If I will show you that, it will have a great impact. Now, if I will take the same movie, it could be a really strong horror movie or something really bad that happened. I will take the same thing and I will show it to you on a screen 10 meters away, and I will make the screen a bit transparent and faded and black and white and muted, and just fast forward the entire movie. Instead of 2 hours of watching the torture, you will see it in like 20 seconds. So it wouldn't impact you as much, even though it's the same experience. And the peaceful ending process guides you through this in your mind, very, very gently, very, very peacefully, like one step at a time. And there is no need to face your fears or any of that.
Wow.
We have future plans for loved one we've lost, pets, kids, brothers, friends, and many times we're usually unconscious of this, but we have very, very vivid scenes of what the future would be with them. With dogs, something I hear a lot is, I will never see my baby play in the park again, or I will never see little Bobby runs over the fence when he sees me coming through the driveway, things like that. And what we do here is a process called severing future plans. And the idea is to think of a dream that you used to have and you did not accomplish, but it's still savored. So it could be wanting to be a superhero when you were a kid, or wanting to be a lawyer when you were a kid and then you grew up and decided that you don't want to be a lawyer, or just you took on a different path. But as you think of those things that you used to want, you can still savor them, even though you didn't accomplish them. So we first decode how your mind encodes a savor dream, something that I wanted in the past, I really wanted it, it did not happen, and I can think about it and kind of ponder about it in a positive way. Like, that's really nice. I really wanted to be a superhero, and you can still smile about it. And we apply the same codings to those future plans that will not happen, like seeing the dog in the park or play with other dogs and what have you. But a common pain is emptiness and loss of good feelings, because usually when this kind of ties back also to the routine part, there are very rare individuals that I met. They can talk about a loss that they have without any training, and they light up. So they don't shrug their shoulders. They're not resignating. They could really think of the dog that is not there and enjoy as if she's right there with me. They can really envision them and feel their presence, even though they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And
so focusing on the positive, basically, and the good feelings.
Yes, focusing on the positive, and there's a really specific way your brain encodes a resource for loss. Each person do it differently, and this is why in the reunion process, we first decode how you personally respond to a loss in a resourceful way, and then we apply it to the recent loss.
I always say pets are great grief support, because if you're grieving a loss, pets are right there for you, like be like supporting you and licking you if you're sad, or going up next to you.
It's incredible what grief support is. The problem is when your grief support dies.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
It's really tough.
That's true.
I had two dogs when one of the dogs died, and the other one, remember I had Jessica and Brittany. I had a Lhasa and a Shih Tzu. And when the Lhasa died, the Shih Tzu, I was very sad. The Shih Tzu was very comforting, but she was sad too.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. I noticed her, we were comforting each other.
and we got the dogs after my brother died to give us, my mom got them to give the family support. So sometimes you get pets to help support you after a death of a person. And the other thing is sometimes pets represent family members. For example, I worked with a lot of 9/11 kids. It's firefighter parents died in the World Trade Center. The dog was the father's dog. So the dad was dead, but the dog was still alive. And so when the dog died, it represented not just the dog, but it also represented the person that owned the dog that was dead. That makes sense. So it's kind of a double loss to a lot of the kids.
And when do you get another dog? Like Heidi, the stories Heidi's talking about, when the dog died, they lost kind of connection with their dad. How long do you wait before you get another one?
I don't think it's time as more as it is identify where you're at with your grief process, because I met people who even when their children were suffering from cancer in the hospital, they were kind of pre-grieved. So even before the loss, they were already very resourceful about it. So they could be there for the kid who is dying of cancer. So I don't think it's time. It's more where you're at. I mean, if you see a dog and immediately like your amygdala goes crazy and you kind of freeze, I don't think it's the time to get a new one. This is something, it's very common, and I usually leave this part for last with my clients. We hear things like, all I see is darkness, my path is dark, there is no light in the end of the tunnel, why should I go on? I have no reason to continue. And what I found here is that after we do the troublesome ending and severing the future and the reunion process, there is still a sense of a less of a compelling future. So even though we can be resourceful about the past and about the loss, sometimes there is still something missing in the future. And this process was also developed mostly by Connie Ray and Steve Andreas, called Re-engaging the Future. Now, I'm just going to say up front, this will not make a lot of sense to the conscious mind, because this is a very deep unconscious process. And the main idea is that we first list all the qualities we valued.
Okay.
So it could be playfulness, cheerfulness, many times it's wisdom.
Loyalty.
Loyalty. And then we think of each one of these qualities as many unconscious representations of these qualities that we can think of. And sometimes it's cartoons, sometimes it's just abstract shapes that means nothing to no one except you. It could be many, many different things. It can be a combination of things.
So I might think of, okay, so I think of the quality of my dog as loyalty. So what comes up for me is I open the door to my house and it's there, thrilled to see me.
Right, and probably with the proper guidance and some time with this, you could easily spring up many, many more representations just about loyalty. And this is just one quality.
Right.
So what we do here is we take as much of these as we want. And usually over time, people get more of these. So more representations, either of things that happened or abstract metaphors and symbols. And then for each person, there's a way we code time. There's a mechanism for the brain to know how I differentiate in my mind tomorrow or 1 year ahead or yesterday or 1 year in the past. And the way we do this, we take all the unconscious representations of the qualities we value, and again, this is a very unconscious process. We kind of plant them in our future. So let's say if you have 200 of these, you kind of custom away to your future, to the way your mind codes the future. And you're left with kind of a trail of sparkling dots, or many people choose candles or stars that kind of propel you forward. You go, okay, I know in some way or another, all these qualities will manifest in my future in ways that I still not sure how.
I love this one. Heidi, I've heard you say that so much about your brother.
This guy, Dr. Geoff, he has many public speaking events, and I saw him in TEDx at the first time. And it's really interesting because he's very vulnerable on the stage. When he says this phrase, he is on the verge of tears, but they are not like misery tears. Like if you see the video, they are very grateful. Like he lost his brother, but he really, even though it's a terrible loss, it's a resource for him. It's a reason for him to live well for his brother. And that's where we want to be.
I definitely identify with that. I feel like I live my best life and I'm living for myself and my brother Scott. Yeah.
I think that's the way to go. That's so much better than go like, oh yeah, I mean, I don't think about Scott anymore. Like, right. I'm over it.
Right. Or I don't want to be here anymore because he's not here.
His story is very interesting because he focused on it and he does a research on it, and he also suffered a really big loss.
Mhm.
Grief and loss, whether it's a pet or a family member. What is it our friend Elizabeth says, Heidi, DeVita Rayburn, about her brother dying, that you can only know the loss that's knocked you? Talk about that.
She just said that the worst loss that can ever happen is the one that's kicked you to the ground, the one that you don't know how you're going to survive, and the one that you're dealing with right now.
Yeah, so no matter what, losses should not be minimized or compared. Foggy grief bearing, you started with that. Then people have broken routines, and they say maybe to you about your animal, it's not like you lost a family member. And we talked about, I don't want to say goodbye, and the fact that if you don't say goodbye, you can't say hello, right?
Yes, say hello again.
Yeah, you can't say hello again. And troubled endings, how you need to work through those troubled endings and try to re-embed them with positive thoughts. There's a whole system for doing that Adam has, but I think that's basically what I get from it, is that that's what you'd want to do. And future plans that don't happen, what you're trying to do, again, I think is re-embed better thoughts and work things through, Adam. Is that kind of what your process?
In a systematic way, the idea is that we always work on the way your specific mind works. So we first decode how the mind encodes a savor dream, something that you wanted to happen, it didn't happen, and you're at peace with it. And then we use this encoding for the recent loss.
I want to thank you so much for being on, Adam.
Sure, my pleasure.
And tell us how people can get a hold of you again.
And people can reach me through Facebook, through my Facebook page. I'm mostly available there.
Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this show today, and please tell your friends about it. And if you've had a pet loss, we are very sorry. We take it very seriously. We know those furry friends are such a great love in our lives. And thanks everybody for watching the show today. And Heidi and I, and I'm sure Adam, always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. And God bless.